When I first started hearing about mindfulness, I confess I imagined something complex, almost impossible to fit into my routine. But after a few attempts, I realized that this practice is not about drastically changing your life. It's about transforming the way you perceive simple moments, the ones that usually go unnoticed. For example, I used to rush through my breakfast, already thinking about the endless to-do list. One day, I decided to stop for a minute and just observe the texture of the bread, feel the aroma of the coffee, and chew slowly. It may seem silly, but it was in that moment that I realized the power of being present. That first step was a turning point for me. I didn't need an expensive course or hours of meditation. I just needed to place my attention on the present moment. When we are mindful, even the most routine moments gain greater meaning. Washing the dishes can stop being a boring chore and become a moment of connection. The sound of the water, the feel of the foam, everything can bring us back to the now, as if time slowed down just so we could truly be there. If you feel like your life is going by too quickly, try picking a moment in your day to practice this. It could be during your first meal of the day, while walking to work, or even while brushing your teeth. Focus on your senses. What do you see, feel, hear, touch? It doesn't have to be perfect. Mindfulness isn't about doing it right. It's about experiencing the present with openness and curiosity. Have you ever tried something like this before? If not, how about starting now? One day while folding clothes, I realized I was so distracted thinking about problems that I didn't even remember which item I had just put away. That's when I decided to turn that routine task into something more intentional. I remember picking up a t-shirt and focusing on the texture of the fabric, the movement of my hands as I folded it, and even the soft sound of the clothes being stacked. That simple act brought me a calm I didn't expect. The truth is that our day is filled with small tasks that can become moments of mindfulness. Instead of letting your mind wander while you drive, for example, try paying attention to the sensation of your hands on the steering wheel, the sound of the engine, or the landscapes passing by your window. When you're preparing a meal, smell the aromas of the ingredients and observe the vibrant colors filling the plate. These tasks, often seen as mundane, can be windows to a mental and emotional pause. This doesn't mean you need to turn your entire routine into a mindfulness practice. It's more about finding those moments where your attention can bring a little more peace to your day. The idea is simple. Choose one task and be fully present. It may seem challenging at first, but over time you'll realize how it helps alleviate stress and create a sense of purpose even in the simplest things. What task in your day do you think you could transform into a moment of mindfulness? A few years ago, I noticed that my home reflected exactly how I felt inside, disorganized and chaotic. So I decided to create a space that was exclusively mine, a place where I could reconnect and take a deep breath. It was just a simple corner in my room with a comfortable cushion, a small plant, and an aromatic candle. But that little refuge made a huge difference in my life. Having a personal space is like having a physical reminder that you deserve moments of pause and care. It doesn't need to be something grand. It can be a little nook in the living room, on the balcony, or even at your work desk. The important thing is that it conveys calm and safety. Maybe it's an armchair by the window with natural light, or a soft rug where you can sit and relax. Personalize this space with things that have meaning for you. Photos, travel souvenirs, books, or any item that brings comfort. More than decoration, creating this space is about intention. When you step into that corner, it's an invitation to leave your worries outside and dedicate some time to yourself, even if just for a few minutes. I would like to know, what would your ideal space look like? What elements would you include to make it a truly yours? A few years ago, I remember a conversation I had with a very close friend. She was exhausted, trying to balance a demanding job, take care of her family, and still find some time for herself. When I asked her what made her feel most guilty, she sighed and replied, "Giving myself a break. It feels like I'm always betraying something or someone." That stayed with me for days because I also felt that way in many moments. Living without guilt while seeking balance is a huge challenge, especially in a world that celebrates productivity over well-being. However, what I have discovered, and hope you will discover too, is that balance is not something rigid or perfect. It is a constant dance, made of adjustments and compromises. Some days you will be more dedicated to work. On others, you will need more time for yourself, and that's okay. A practice that changed my relationship with time was setting clear boundaries. For example, establishing times to end work and sticking to that, not just as an obligation, but as an act of respect for my own mental health. Another step was learning to say no without feeling guilty. Remember, by saying no to something, you are saying yes to yourself. After all, how can you serve the world, your work, and the people you love if you are not at peace with yourself? What do you think you could change today in your routine to make those boundaries clearer and respected? In one of the most difficult moments of my life, I remember asking myself, where is my motivation? The feeling of being stuck, with no energy to move forward, is something we all go through. It seems like there is something between us and our dreams, something invisible that prevents us from taking the first step. And this is where motivation indeed becomes a much more personal topic than most people realize. There is no magic formula for motivation, but over the years I have learned that it is built through small daily gestures. Sometimes it comes from within me, in moments of introspection, and other times it comes from external sources, inspiring books, conversations with friends, or even the simple practice of a hobby. The important thing is not to wait for motivation to start taking action. Movement comes first. Start with small steps, and soon you will notice that motivation appears as you progress. It is also vital to recognize the moments when motivation is truly distant and give yourself permission to rest. Instead of blaming yourself, allow for that pause. Self-compassion is often the fuel that prepares us for the journey. Learning to take a quality break without rushing back to a frantic pace brings a renewed motivation that, in many cases, is more lasting. When was the last time you allowed yourself to rest without guilt? Wouldn't it be interesting to give yourself that space right now? Let's continue and discover more about how to cultivate this balance. Have you ever felt overwhelmed by a goal that seemed too big to achieve? I have been through that. It was like looking at a mountain and thinking, I will never make it there. But the truth is, we don't have to conquer everything at once. The secret lies in small steps. I remember a time when I decided to improve my physical health. I signed up for a gym, bought the best equipment, and promised myself I would work out every day. However, after a week, the motivation disappeared. The commitment felt too daunting. That's when I decided to change my approach. Instead of trying to do everything, I started by walking for 10 minutes every day. It doesn't seem like much, but it was enough to create a habit. That small step evolved into something bigger, and before I knew it, I was running long distances and feeling healthier and happier. Small steps have incredible power because they not only bring us closer to our goals, but also build confidence and discipline along the way. They make big goals less intimidating and more manageable. It doesn't matter if it's something related to health, career, or personal life. Start small. 1 email sent, 1 paragraph written, 1 deep breath. Every action counts. Now, think of something you want to achieve. What is the smallest step you can take today? Something so small that there's no way you can't do it. Try it and see how the feeling of accomplishment begins to grow within you. How about we start together?